Day is no different. So I've got this book here in my hand, Almarie. I'm showing the camera over here. The book is called Walking Through Fire, The Viking. So this book is lying at home on the kitchen counter.
Yeah.
My wife walks past. She goes, "Oh, The Viking. I didn't know Archie Snyman wrote a book." So I said, "No, it's not the rugby player, dear. It's Kobus Visser."
Wel gedaan vir haar, dat sy geweet het wie sy rugby speler, maar ek
Ja.
moet sê daar is 'n sterk resemblance met die persoon wat vanoggend hier saam met ons sit. So ons onthou uitvind of hy ook al gevra is vir handtekeninge vir rugby doeleindes.
What a pleasure to welcome Kobus Visser to the studio. Kobus, welcome.
Good morning, Bradley and
Almarie.
Almarie. Yes, I'm
Well-
always good with faces, but not always with names. And so, thank you for having me here this morning. And on Archie Snyman, you know, we've met a while back, and he also has a copy of my book. And the first thing he said when he looks up, "You look like me," and I said, "Yeah, but you're taller than me." So that's the big difference.
So as jy gaan staan, gaan mense duidelik weet wie's wie.
Definitely.
Kobus, you've been through a lot, and Kobus shared a little bit off air, and we'll touch on that more on air. You know, when you went through the struggles that you did when you were growing up, and maybe you were struggling to see life ahead, except for the here and now. I mean, did you imagine that you'd be able to one day travel around, write a book, do incredible things, inspire some of South Africa and the world's biggest names with the work that you've done, and have a successful consultancy firm? I mean, how far you've come from all of those struggled years.
Definitely. I think it was never in my mind to do this. I come out of a family with a family business, and I worked in the family business. However, there was a moment in my life where it was like a catalyst moment. So sometimes, you know, I believe God brings us to a point where either He makes us blind to open our eyes again. And mine was when my first son was born. And just for the listeners out there, I was born as a hemophiliac, and hemophiliac means it's a bleeder, and my blood doesn't clot very easily. And because of all of the bleedings over the years, I live in pain 24/7. So this morning I already was starting to get up at 4 o'clock just to be here and early, just to move the joints.
Wow.
Because over the years, my joints have sort of disintegrated, my elbows, my ankles. However, when my son was born, I could never pick up my own son because I hardly had strength in my elbows. I was in too much pain at that time. You know, if I think about where I am today, it's like I can't believe that I was there. And when we were expecting our second child, my son drew a picture, and he had two little babies, a cross over the one, and he says, "Dad, I don't want a little sister. I want a little brother that can play with me because you can't." And the moment that changed my life when it got to me, his words was, "Dad, you are dead to me." And that put me on a path. Those words were so hitting hard that I realized something has to change. Either I'm going to give up on life, because being in pain 24/7, it's really a conscious effort to be positive and have a positive mindset. And so my whole life I've had the challenge of mental health, mental strength, you know, that mindset of being positive. So I usually would go into a hole, and it put me in such a hole that I didn't see a light in front of me. And on that path, in that self-reflection, it put me on the path. And there's a Bible verse that says, Isaiah 43 verse 2 to 4, that you will walk through fire and you will not get burned because I'm with you. And guess what happened on my experience? I was at a seminar one night, and there was a fire walk, and I walked that fire, and my life changed.
No wonder it says on the front of this beautiful book, "Walking Through Fire, #whatever it takes." These are big turning points. I think when you ever sit and talk to people who have done something worthwhile and influential, it's often come at that turning point. I mean, I was also thinking back to 2013 with you lying in that hospital bed. I mean, tell us about that part of your story.
Yeah, you know, waking up and not being able to walk, and I believe that's the one that you
Correct.
referred, is that, you know, as hemophilia, we inject ourselves, and it usually takes 2 to 3 days, and then we can use our joints again. However, this time, 1 month became 2 months, 2 months became a year, and before I knew it, the doctor said, "Kobus, to help you with the pain, we can have to replace your ankles and we're going to replace your elbows," and we do the same, and it's a 2-year journey. And I was in this mindset. I'm like, how am I going to do this? You know, at least pain will be gone. However, I might be in a wheelchair for life. And sitting there, I realized something on my journey, because before that, I've already experienced something like walking on fire. And I believe that our bodies can heal itself. You know, we have to have that faith. And I went on this journey to say, okay, what am I need to focus on? So I started focusing on, and I think it was 2015, end of 2014, 15, I said to people when I was on stage in a wheelchair, I'm going to go climb a mountain by the name of Kilimanjaro. And most people laughed and like, "Look at your reality, Kobus, you know, you can't hardly walk." I said, but there was someone else that climbed the mountain with crutches. If they can do it, why can't I do it? Sometimes we have to look to others to be inspired. If they can do it, we can do it. And so I set myself a goal. However, I said to people, I'm going to go next year. And when next year came, they're like, when are you going? I was like, guys, I told you, next year. And the next year after that, I like, Kobus, you have to set a date. So about 6 years ago, in July 2018, I set my date. I paid my deposit, so I was committed. And I went to climb Kilimanjaro with my crutches. And it was a life transformational experience.
Sure.
And there's a picture, and one thing I love about these kind of books is there's also some real photos, and you didn't quite make it all the way on your crutches like you wanted to, but you had people around you, and that sort of felt like such a metaphor for life. We've got great dreams and great aspirations. Sometimes it's the people around us that just carry us that extra little bit.
Yeah, it was the angels God sent on my path. So to give you an idea, 2017, I went through a divorce. And I went through a lot of internal struggles. And I think it was that year or the year before, a famous racing driver passed away on the mountain, And so everyone asked her, why did you want to climb the mountain? And I'm going to be honest with you today. It's that I was on this journey. I'm like, I'm a coward to take my own life. So what's the best way to die is to go do something like that. So my whole purpose and drive of climbing this mountain was to go and die and not come back. And every night sharing it with the group that I'm not coming back, they didn't believe me. And that was my whole purpose, was to go and die on that mountain. Yet I did basically die, not literally, but figuratively. And I remember looking at the highest sunrise in Africa. I gave up. I just couldn't anymore. I had altitude sickness. I couldn't breathe. I had water on the lungs. And my friend sits next to me and says, Kobus, let's go down. And I said, no. His name was Will. No, you go climb this mountain for us. He stands up, and before we leave today, I will teach you something that I do. It's called an intentional hug. And he gave me a hug, and he said, Kobus, just remember why you came to climb this mountain. And I had, again, energy to push through it to at least to Stella Point. It's not the highest part, but it got me into the top of the mountain. And it's because of the people that we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
Ja. Ek wil daar aansluit. Jy praat so nou oor wat 'n mens deurgaan geestelik ook, dink ek. En ongelukkig is dit vir my dit staan vir my baie uit hoe mense, wanneer hulle nie 'n kondisie kan sien nie, is dit vir hulle bitter moeilik om partykeer te empatiseer. En baie keer om ook te verstaan dis kronies. Hierdie is nie 'n ding wat gaan ophou nie. Tensy God 'n wonderwerk doen wat hy kan, maar dit is nog een van daai realiteite, soos jy nou sê, hier sit jy. Nou as jy saam met ons in die ateljee kon wees, hy het nou vandag 'n lang hemp aan, so ons sien nie die elmboon nie, maar mense sou nie op die aarde geweet het, Kobus gaan deur enige iets nie. Hoe gaan mense om met daai, en is dit 'n alleenpad wat 'n ou baie keer moet stap?
I don't believe it's an alone journey that you have to walk through. I think the one thing that we need to realize as humans, we need people in our life. And it's the people that has been in my life to do that. And I know people don't see it now. However, I do experience it every day. And a while back they saw it. God does create miracles, and He has created miracles because I'm still walking, and my joints, they did x-rays a few months ago. It's worse than they were 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they still can't believe why I'm walking. So I believe God is healing me. However, if it was not for this, what I have, I won't be able to do what I'm doing today. And I believe I've been put on this earth for a reason and a purpose, to inspire people and give them hope. God saved me. In the Bible, you talk about if you want to meet God, you go to the mountain. And so the mountain was my meeting with God. And on my way back, they sent up all of the porters because I said, I'm not going down. And they didn't take it. And they came to carry me down the mountain. And then at the last base camp that night, I can't sleep, and they were worried I'm going to die. They sent a helicopter to come pick me up that morning. I felt such a big failure as a person coming down the mountain. Why am I flying down? I can't even make it down. And I really was feeling guilty and bad. And just a few weeks after that, as I reflected, God gave me a message and said, Kobus, you were reborn. And I had to be like Elijah, sent you a golden chariot to come take you down the mountain. So that was the most amazing message.
There's a picture here, and I'm trying to find, I put myself in this position here. The photo is here. Let's see if I can show it here. You can see it on me. I'm going to show it to the camera. So there you are. It's the team making sure I stay alive. And you were in a stretcher. I'm just showing it to the camera, and you need to get your hands on this book to be able to see that. But that's what brought me to this question of mentors, because we always can achieve more together than we could ever do apart. And often we need to just have somebody with us that can remind us of our value, but then also to help us make our starting point one of their best moments. So So who do you surround yourself with day to day that inspires you to bring you to this place where you're changing people's lives around the world?
There's two different sides of it. So there's mentors you probably never would get reached easily, like a Elon Musk, like a Tony Robbins. I'm just using them as an example. So I read their books, I look at their videos. And then in my career and my journey, I look at mentors who I would love to be like, who is successful. And I reach out to them. I reach out to them for a coffee, and most of them say yes.
Wow.
And then I meet them with a coffee, and I ask them for guidance. However, on that journey is, if you think about going to the gym, right? If you do it by yourself, you see it usually after New Year's resolutions. After a month, they disappear. They're not back. The only way to be successful is to have, and it can be a coach or it can be an accountability partner to keep you accountable, that you apply the things. Because the secret is we have to apply these things every day. Nothing is going to come as a quick fix. If you eat fast food, it's not good for you. You can't eat it every day. But you remember when you were young and home-cooked food, that didn't take 10 minutes to prepare. That was an hour, 2 hours. And I think in the same in this journey of life is that people need to know is that it's a consistent application of every day of 1, 2, 3 things that will change your life, guaranteed.
Yeah. At what point did you decide, I've been through a lot, I am experiencing a lot, I'm gaining in my knowledge, understanding, my faith is growing, I'm now going to write a book? Because they tell us everyone's got a book in them, but very few people ever write it. But you've done it. I have the book here in front of me, and we're going to tell our listeners how they can get their hands on one. How did this come to this point of it actually happening?
I've spoken English since I've been twice. I know it's delicious, and I might be exaggerating with my pronunciation, but we are chatting in the past. I have all of the excuses to not write a book.
Yeah.
Really, I can give you when I type in Gen Z language, shortened words, and so I put myself this project. It became my Kilimanjaro of writing it. But my journey started, and I want to ask you, how would you have had it if you could have a book today of your grandfather, great-grandfather, or mother, and learning from their lessons and journey?
Man, I'd love that.
Ek was met daardie op Brad weer spesiaal is dit vir my. Ons het een van my tannies het ongelukkig afgesterf einde verlede jaar en sy het boeke daar wat nou mense wat my voorgegaan het wat ek toe nou nie eers besef het hoeveel wyshede hulle kwyt geraak het, maar waar daar geskrewe dinge is en dit is ongelooflik spesiaal as jy weet. Daai kom van mense wat in my, ek is die volgende generasie. So ek kan vir jou getuig wat dit vir mense beteken. Dis nie net nog 'n boek met wyshede of met iets in wat special is nie. Ja.
And that's why I wanted to leave that legacy. It became a legacy of, if you die, people will forget you after a while and they go on with their life. And I have 2 beautiful sons. They're 14 and 10 now. And I'm like, how can I leave something behind? If I had to die today, what am I going to leave behind? I need to leave. Apart from that, people always ask me at events, you just shared a little bit of your story. We want to know more. To leave them with that. My whole purpose of writing that book was to leave it for my sons and my sons' sons and for the future generation so that they know where they're from and they don't have to repeat the same lessons. And through that, I've even convinced my dad not to write a book. And I think that's my journey to everyone there. It's not about writing the book for the rest of the world. It's leaving like a guidebook for your future generations so that they don't repeat the same mistakes and they can learn from you.
But I mean, I haven't read the whole book. I'll admit that. I've just read the first part of it, and I look forward to doing the rest. But what I've noticed is there are people that are massively influential in South Africa and in the world who, it would seem, just as much as you contacted them to ask them to be your mentor, you're changing their lives. And I guess that's what our lives are supposed to be about, leaving something behind, even in the lives of those people who some people would deem above us or more important or more experienced.
It's about sharing your story, but it's also that power of impacting one person. Most people out there probably won't be a motivational speaker or do what I do. However, they have an influence over the people around them. And how can you make that difference? How can you have someone seen? Now, one of the things that I do that I ask people to pay on forward is an intentional hug. So when you meet people, it's not about you. I get people that say, I don't love hugging. And I say, it's not about you, it's about the other person. And that the first step is when you meet someone is just to make eye contact and just utter the words. And I love the Zulu word, sawubona, that means I see you. Some people move so on their phones around, they hardly acknowledge the person in front of them.
Yeah.
The second step is to hug heart to heart, right? And because our heart represents love, our eyes represent windows of our soul. And then the third thing, when you hug, here's the secret. You breathe in together and you breathe out. Now, if you can get the person, you say, let's do it 3 times. After 20 seconds, the brain releases serotonin and dopamine. You feel loved, you feel seen, you feel cared for. you might just save a life by just giving someone a hug. You don't have to go do something big. Just giving someone a hug might save their life today.
Yeah, and then I think one of the massive challenges, and Alma mentioned, we look at you, there's no way of knowing what your struggle has been, what you're struggling with today. It's impossible to know. You cannot tell a thing. And I think that's often how we go about our lives. We're interacting with people on a daily basis, but we almost just don't give them the time of day. And I know realistically we can't just hang out with everybody, but it feels like people deserve more of us than we're prepared to give.
Definitely, and think about families. One thing that my dad taught us, and I want to teach people, is bring back the home table where you have lunch together and dinner again around the table, and take away the phones and just spend time. It's not about quantity time anymore. It's now about really quality time, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, because you're investing in the other people around you. And I think that's important. If we can bring that back, we can bring families together, we can bring people together, and through that we also change the world.
Ek wil aansluit by iets wat jy vroeër gesê het. Jy het genoem in 'n fase van waar jy regtig so 'n uitdaging gehad het met hemofilia, het jou seentjie iets vir jou gesê wat jou turning point geraak het. Herhaal net geweet wat het hy vir jou gesê daai dag?
So at 4 years old, he wrote this and he said, Dad, you are dead to me. Boy is dood vir my.
Ja.
En net daai woorde, and when on this journey, I experienced the hug, and I started teaching him the hug, and it's become our thing. Every time he sees me, it's like, even at 14, can you believe it? He looks at me and says, Dad, I want the hug. When I talk to people and I tell him I was an event, he asked me, did you teach the hug? Because it had such an impact on us in a story. Because the first time I told this story, he was in the audience, and he started crying when I gave him a hug, and he says, Dad, at that time, Dad, please forgive me, I didn't know what I was doing. And I said, my son,
Oh, wow.
if you didn't did that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Amazing.
Want
Here's
ek dink
the
nou.
picture, Almarie.
Oh,
So, yeah, I'll show it. It's also in the book.
Ek wens almal kan sien. Gelukkig as jy op Facebook is, kan jy sien.
Ja.
Nee, want ek dink dan moontlik soveel mense wat vandag luister en paas ingesluit wat dalk nie die band het met hulle seun of met hulle kind wat hulle wil hê nie. En dalk is dit deur jou eie toedoen waar jy keuses gemaak het wat jou van jou familie verwyder het of vervreem het. En ek dink jy het amper al die antwoord gegee, maar wat is daai stap, ongeag wat die rede is wat hoe versterk mens daai verhouding? As jy dalk nie altyd die vaardigheid het, in jou geval was dit 'n fisiese vaardigheid wat gekort het, om ook saam met jou kind te kan speel. Maar wat doen 'n mens om daai band te nurture, soos wat die Here ook met ons doen?
So it took my dad 40 years of my life before he told me he loved me, right? And it was such a big thing, an important thing. And I think it's the small things. I started giving him hugs. I had someone just recently reading my book that sent me a message. They haven't spoken to their family for 50 years. And just because in the beginning of my book, I write letters to my family, just because of that, not even the rest of the book, made them realize that they missed their family and they were picking up the phone and reaching out to that family. Can you believe that? 50 years of their life. And I think that sometimes it's the small things. And my challenge is to dads is to realize, guys, it's not about you anymore. What child do you want to leave behind? Can you not let them know at least that you love them and let your pride go into your pocket and say,
said.
Let me give them a hug. I know it's awkward. For some dads it's difficult. But give them a hug because it means so much for kids, so that when they grow up, they can pay it forward to their kids.
Wow.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about around this book, so we don't have heaps of time, a minute or two left. Let's just talk about where our listeners can get the book, because it is incredibly powerful. How can we get our hands on it?
So one is you can reach out. If you want a specialized signed copy and a message from me, you can reach out to me. It's www.kobusvisser.com. I'm on all social media. Just even search Kobus Visser the Viking. You can reach out to me. It's being distributed to exclusive books and bargain books. Someone already sent me a picture from Cape Town International Airport.
Super.
They have it there. So it's being rolled out. It's on Amazon as well, and it will be soon on Takealot as well. However, if you want a specialized copy, you reach out to me and I will get you a specialized copy.
Will you sign my copy, Nana?
I will sign you.
Yes! I'm grateful for
Jy
that.
moet jou nou net nie daartoe verbeel jy het regtig ook RG Snyman se handtekening gekry. Jy moet maar 2 handtekeninge maak, né?
Dis Kobus. Dis Kobus handtekening, I
Yes.
know.
And it's now in Afrikaans as well. So I must get you want an Afrikaans?
Asseblief.
Yeah, so I will
Asseblief.
get you Afrikaans version. And I think it's in Afrikaans is loop deur vuur, wat ook al dit vat.
Oh, fantasties.
We love that. Yeah. It's the Viking Kobus Visser walking through fire. I have so many more questions for you, but we have to go. Just one of those things. Oh, well. Not every day you get to hang out with Kobus. Hang on, I've got to ask one thing. I heard a rumor that there's another book coming. I just wanted to at least find out if that's true or not.
Yes. So part of my journey is now, because I work with businesses,
Okay.
I want to inspire businesses. So everyone believes that, business is tough currently in South Africa. However, the businesses I've been working with in the last 2 years, the one that grew the least was with 70%. So business is all around us. And the thing is, if every business can employ one person, do you know it affects 7 other people that they support? So if every business can at least hire someone, we are actually impacting and uplifting South Africa.
Stunning.
Kobus, baie dankie.
Dankie,
En weet jy
Kobus.
wat my afgesluit vir my, wat my opgewonde maak, is om weer te besef, of het my eintlik bewus gemaak, dis daai eenvoudige goed, soos iets wat instinctiewelik is vir ons elkeen. Dis nie eers nodig om dit te geleer het, of te geswat het om te weet hoe om mekaar eintlik beter te maak in die lewe nie. Dis so eenvoudig baie keer soos 'n drukkie. Nie eers woorde daarvoor nodig nie. En kyk net wat doen dit fisiologies aan 'n mens. So daai inspireer my, en ook die ander ding wat weer vir my uitgespring het is, jy weet nie wat is die battles wat iemand deurgaan nie. En as jy nie die moeite gaan doen om 'n gesprek te hê of te vra, sonder dat jy aanname of sommer al 'n oordeel geval het oor 'n persoon nie, dan verloor jy eintlik. En dan is dit weer daai ding van sonder liefde is ons niks. Jy kan al die regte dinge doen en sê, maar getuig jou lewe regtig van iemand wat liefhet.
Vilma says, you sound amazing for what you go through daily, Kobus.
Aw.
I will strive to see past my problems as it seems so silly compared to your daily
Wow.
struggles. So thanks for you listeners that are getting involved and sharing. Somebody else here also says, wow, thank you so much. Dis fantasties om na te luister, says another one. So thanks so much for your input this morning. A massive thanks to you coming all the way. Safe travels back to Gauteng.
Thank you.
And thanks to Kobus Visser. Don't forget to check out Kobus Visser, Kobus with a C, kobusvisser.com. From all of us here, great that we could spend this whole week getting you up and getting you going. Thanks so much for choosing us to be your daily companion as you do life in the car, at home. And for those of you that we see taking walks with your earphones on, listening to us, we love that. And God willing, back Monday morning, 6 a.m. to do it all over again.
Brad, dankie vir daai liedjie wat jy gedoen het. Al is dit nou met kunsmatige intelligensie. Ek het toe gaan kyk, weet jy daar's kunstenaars wat eintlik hulle stemme verkoop om te sê hulle gee 50% van die royalties as hulle stem gebruik word. So dis dalk iets wat jy ook kan oorweeg as 'n radiopersoonlikheid, maar jy het ons nou in 'n posisie gesit, die mense hou so baie van die liedjie.
Ja.
Nou gaan ons een moet komponeer.
Goodness.
Jy
You're going to
reg
have
vir
to help
dit.
with that. I can't componeer.
Jou eerste liedjie waar jy gaan sing.
Nobody's going to listen to it. Can I talk my way through it?
Don't be that. Everyone's going to want to listen to it.
Jy kan rap as 'n begin.
Oh, I might try
so
that.
begin by rap en beatbox.
That sounds good.
Van my almal die maak die lewe mooi, wees mooi met ander. Dankie vir die saamkuier.
Stay tuned. News at 9 o'clock, and the good things continue right here on 7 to 9 a.m. This is K Pulpit, from the word to your heart.
Kids today are spending more time than ever in front of the TV or computer screen, and dormant kids tend to be chubby kids. Good day, and thank you for joining us for the Focus on the Family Minute. As parents, it's our job to recognize when our kids aren't getting enough sunshine and exercise, and to do something about it. Left to their own devices, a lot of kids would spend all day lying on the couch. But they need to be active, especially if they're getting a little flabby around the middle. If your family has gotten into some bad habits, consider joining a local health club. Indoor sports like basketball or swimming are a great way to stay healthy while developing invaluable motor skills and coordination. In good weather, get the kids outside all you can. Take a family hike or biking trip, or just play frisbee in the park.